Thank you for the introduction. So I'm Adrian Hon. I'm CEO at SXSW. It's very cool to see so many people who played Zombies around here in the audience. So SXSW, we actually founded back in 2007, and originally we were a digital agency. We did a lot of consulting work and work for hire for people like Disney Imagineering and BBC and Channel 4. But we wanted to make our own games, as a lot of people do. And one of the things that I was really interested in is running. I've been a runner for a long time. And if you watch a lot of adverts by Nike or by fitness companies, you'll think that running is just like so easy and so fun. You just wake up in the morning, you run 20K, and you come back home and you're feeling great. And it might be like that for some people, but actually for me, it was really boring and painful and tedious. It wasn't really much fun to begin with. And so when I started out running in university, I just wanted to find out a way of making it a bit more exciting and a bit more fun. And I used things like gadgets, like GPS trackers. But I always thought it'd be really important for there to be a more fun way, a more exciting way of running. And lots of other people have done that as well. We aren't the only people to have thought about gamifying running or fitness. And so, you'll see some fairly kind of conventional gamification things around exercise or fitness. So, for example, I think this is from YThings or from Fitbit. You get achievements after you've walked a certain amount of distance. It's okay. It's not really that interesting, honestly. You get like a little graphic. I don't think it's going to be motivating anyone to run that much further. Or you might get something a bit more sophisticated. So with Nike, you've got a leaderboard showing you, hey, you've run more than other people this week. And leaderboards can be motivating for people who are more competitive and people who are kind of into that sort of thing. But just as a kind of aside, if you're thinking about leaderboards, I'd always remind you to think about the people who are at the bottom of the leaderboard. Someone's always at the bottom. It's really depressing to be at the bottom of the leaderboard. Certainly from my point of view, when I look at the leaderboard for my fitness apps, it never changes. There's people in America who don't move, and they're always at the bottom. And there's people in Europe who are kind of always sort of floating towards the top because they're walking around more. And so, those sorts of things, they're quite easy to do, but they're not necessarily the most effective. And then you have some more sophisticated gamification versions of running. So this is one game called Turflee from a few years ago. And so this uses location-based tracking for people to capture territory as they run around the city. So I'm certainly not pretending that we're the only people doing gamified running. I will say that none of these other examples have really been successful in the long term. They've never really had anyone pay for them or been sustainable over many years. So one of the problems with this game, where basically if you run through a certain area, then you capture it, and you're trying to capture territory from other people, right? That sounds kind of fun, sounds kind of like, competitive. Well, one problem with this sort of gameplay is it rewards people who run more, which sounds kind of obvious, right? I mean, isn't that what you want to do? But then the issue is, if I live in an area where there's someone who's a really good runner, and they're just running like 15 kilometers or 10 kilometers every day, then I can go out running for 1 kilometer or 2 kilometers because I'm a beginner in my local park. And I get back home, I open up the app, and all my stuff is being destroyed by this amazing runner. It's not really motivating, That is a great way of doing a certain kind of app for people with a similar ability. But if you've got people with different abilities or people with different motivations, it doesn't really work so well. So that's kind of a really important thing to think about with fitness, where you've got people with really wildly different abilities. So we wanted to create something completely different. And it's really important to say the idea for Zombies Run came about largely because of the talents of the people involved in the team, rather than just through just an idea that I had in my head or a co-creator had in my head. So the idea for Zombies Run came up in 2011. So it's several years ago now. I was talking to our co-creator, Naomi Alderman, who's an author. She wrote the book called The Power, which was awarded, well, many awards. It's sold like 1 million copies. She's an amazing author. And we'd worked together before. And I said, I really wanted to make a running game. But I wanted to make a running game that uses audio only. Because one of the problems with these apps, particularly this location-based app, is that you can't really be looking at your phone when you're running. I mean, it sounds obvious, right? Of course you can't be looking at your phone when you're running. But if you look at a lot of the sophisticated location-based running games, all of them have little bits of treasure. Sometimes actually people will tell me, our players will tell us, oh, it'd be really cool in Zombies Run if it told you to kind of run left or right, if it had treasure down a particular road. And I'm like, no, it wouldn't be cool. You think that would be cool, but you do not want to be running and stopping every 30 seconds looking at your phone or running along, playing Pokemon Go. It's just really unsafe. It's not fun, but it's also unsafe. And we have a responsibility as game designers to keep people safe if they're running around outside. So we wanted to make a game, and this makes it harder. We wanted to make a game where you don't look at the phone at all while you're running. But crucially, you do get feedback while you're running. Because one of the other things about some of these apps is there's no feedback, these games, while you're running. So when you're out running for 20 or 30 or 40 minutes, it's just still the same kind of boring, tedious experience as you will get otherwise. Maybe you're listening to a podcast or music, but the game is not actually making the act of running any more fun, right? Getting an achievement after you've run is not actually making running more fun. So we wanted to make running more fun. And the idea was to use audio, sort of create an audio alternate reality. So when you're running, you've got your headphones on. A lot of people really do this when they're running. You've got your phone in your pocket or in your arm. And we put you into a zombie apocalypse. And you get radio transmissions from people around the world and the story. And you have missions, and you have to go and rescue an abandoned child, or you have to go and collect supplies, or you have to go and warn a settlement that there's a zombie horde approaching. And in order to do that, you have to run. It's a zombie apocalypse. You can't just go and jump in a car. There's no fuel left. The bike, well, there's no good roads left. You have to run. We didn't just pick zombies because zombies are cool. Zombies worked really well for our setting and for our requirement that people would be running all the time. Also helps that people kind of understand how zombies work, right? You can't bargain with zombies. You can't shoot them all because you'll run out of ammo. You always just have to keep on running. And it turns out if you're going to make a game that keeps on going for 7 years and has 400 episodes of story, then you better have a pretty good setting. Even Jason Bourne occasionally gets in a car, right? So we need people to keep on running. And so while you're running, you have the story, and occasionally you will get chased by zombies. And this is how we build an interval training into our game. So when you hear zombies detected, you have to speed up running by about 10 to 20%. So if you're walking, that means you have to jog. If you're jogging, that means you have to run. If you're running, that means you have to sprint. And if you're sprinting, then you're in trouble. And if you get caught by the zombies, if you don't run fast enough, you don't die because it's just a game, but you do lose the supplies you collected. So it's not really punishing. It's not like you have to start the game again. It's just you lose a little bit of the supplies you collected. And the supplies are what you use to build up your base on the right-hand side there. So we have a base building component where you can sort of see your achievements and sort of buy upgrades to buildings and that sort of thing. But actually, most people really play for the story. And it's really important for me to kind of emphasize this, because I think a lot of people think Zombies Run is basically running along and you hear some zombies and you run faster. If it was just that, people would play it like once or twice. It'd be really boring. It's more like an audio adventure or a role-playing game. And it's a bit like The Walking Dead combined with Game of Thrones. There's 400 episodes of story. And it's really good story, and you're always wanting to find out what happens next. When you finish a good episode of Game of Thrones, you're like, oh my God, is this person going to die? Is Jon really dead or not? What's going to happen to the dragons? we want you to wake up on a rainy Sunday morning and think, I can't wait to go outside running because I want to find out what happens next. And that's the power of storytelling. And that's something we've really harnessed in Zombies Run, which is quite unusual, not completely unusual, but it's quite unusual for gamification. So, one of the things we had to do with Zombies Run is really build out the whole sort of cloud infrastructure so you can also go and see, this is actually one of my runs. I've always been testing this for years. So you can see where your chases have been and your route and that sort of thing. We do have lots of different types of games. Zombies Run started out as just having one mode, and now there's many modes, like airdrop mode, where you have to run to a specific location in the real world. We have interval training mode, where you can create your own workouts. Lots of different kinds of stories, including non-zombie stories now, actually. And it's really, the storytelling in Zombies Run has inspired just amazing number of fans, to go into to write fan fiction, to do cosplay. We've had people turn up to our parties in Runner 5 cosplay. That's who you are in the game. I'm pretty sure there isn't like Nike cosplay, or Fitbit cosplay, but there is Zombies Run cosplay. So people are really inspired by this. And Zombies Run started out actually as a Kickstarter. So we didn't take any investment for Zombies Run. It was all organic. We launched it in 2011. So the Kickstarter launched in September 2011. And we had a very modest goal, a kind of unrealistically low goal of $12,500. And after 30 days, it raised $73,000. And kind of more importantly, it had about 27,000 people say they were interested in the game. So when we saw that, we knew that we had something that was kind of really powerful. And I know Kickstarter is kind of old news now. At the time, it was really important. And for us, this step of putting Zombies Run on Kickstarter was a really important way to validate the idea. Right? We didn't want to go and spend all our own money and time on something that people weren't going to pay for. And that doesn't mean that everyone should be paying for gamification applications, but it's a really good sign to tell whether there's actually demand. I don't want to make a game that people don't value and that people don't actually play. It's just really depressing. Even if I'm being paid to make it, I just don't want to do that. I want to make a game that people value enough to pay for. So we made the game in 6 months, which is kind of unbelievable when I think about it now. It came out in February 2012. And we didn't spend any money. We've never spent any money on advertising or marketing or user acquisition. It's all been completely word of mouth or spread by Apple and Google. And so we've been really lucky because Zombies Run is just kind of a really distinctive name and a really distinctive idea. And so whenever there's some sort of roundup of like cool new apps, then Zombies Run gets included in it. So we've been really sort of lucky with that. So just the stats. We've been running this for 7 years. We've got 8 seasons of story now. We've done 9 virtual races. So virtual races are like paid traditional races, but you can do them anywhere in the world. We've had actually over 6 million downloads of Zombies Run now. And we have tens of thousands of active subscribers. So that's our business model. It used to be that people would pay to download Zombies Run, and they pay for extra missions. And then as the App Store and the Play Store changed, and everything went free, because no one wants to pay for apps anymore, we went to a freemium model in 2015, where people can download the app for free, and they can get a lot of content for free, but a bit like Calm or Headspace or Audible or Spotify or Netflix, you have to go and subscribe to keep getting the new content. And that's worked out really well for us. It's a really good business model for health and fitness apps, for lifestyle apps, for content-based apps. It's hard to convince people to subscribe. Right? A lot of people will say that they don't want yet another subscription because they're already subscribed to a million things. But actually, if it's something they value, it really helps align your interests and their interests, right? Because we want to keep updating this app. If any of you have made iOS or Android apps, you know that if you stop updating them for a year, it just breaks because Apple and Google keep on changing everything, And because you're competing against companies with like billions of dollars of investment and they're always adding features, we always have to do that. And so by having a subscription, we have the investment, and we have the buy-in from our players to keep doing this. And it's really, just from a kind of psychological well-being point of view for me, it's really good because it means that next year I know pretty much how much money we're making next year, because I know that most of our subscribers actually will stay subscribed. Our churn rate for Zombies Run is very low. More than 50% of subscribers remain subscribed after a year, actually. And so I talked a little bit about storytelling. I always bang the drum of storytelling. It's something that a lot of people don't really want to include in their games, let alone gamification applications, because it's just harder to do, and it's harder to scale, right? I remember when we started making Zombies Run, a lot of people said, well, zombies, a lot of people don't like zombies. Why don't you just do something a bit more generic, like spies or, werewolves or vampires even? And it's like, you need to appeal to someone or you'll appeal to no one, right? I don't need everyone to go and play Zombies Run. I just need some people to like it, because some people are more than zero. And for that, I need really good storytelling. And so we worked with Naomi Alderman, I mentioned, our co-creator. She's show running a TV show for Amazon coming out soon that got bought for $100 million. So this is like our biggest expense, as Zombies Run. It's having really good storytelling, and that's why people keep tuning in, and that's why people keep running. That doesn't mean that every gamification application needs to have storytelling. It's just something that you should think about. And it should be better than it needs to be as well, actually. Like, a lot of people put stories in their apps. Actually, other people, like MyFitnessPal, and I think, Map My Run, other companies have done storytelling running. Someone claimed to have invented it 3 years after we did, which is amazing. And it's just fucking awful storytelling. Just really objectively bad. And no offense to any developers in this room. Like, developers are great at recognizing good code. In my experience, not so good at telling what is a good story. So, make sure you've got a diversity of talents in your team. We want to give a reason for people to run, It's make-believe, The zombies aren't real. You're not actually in a zombie apocalyptic landscape. But we can immerse people while they're running, right? If you've listened to podcasts, if you've listened to audio dramas, you know that even though you're just listening, you can really get into the story. And I think that level of kind of make-believe and that level of role-play can get people really excited. We've had people actually, start laughing while they're running. We've had people cry while they're running, when someone gets killed. People really get engaged in it. And I think there's a level of emotional attachment and engagement that is something that you should be looking to do. It's something that won't work for everything, but it can work for these more personal experiences. And as audio drama, we invested a lot of money in our audio production facilities. We bought our own sound booth. We've hired great voice actors. Great audio director. This is something that really sets us apart. We wanted to invest in this as well as our application. And so that's what really spurred, the development of all of these different fanfics that we've seen in Zombies Run. People just really get attached to the characters. So I wanted to go and share a bit of research that we did with UCL recently. This hasn't been published yet, so you're some of the first people to see this. But we did a really big survey of Zombies Run users earlier this year. So I should go and say, this is self-selected, right? So it's not like it's some sort of blind study. However, for reasons that we'll talk about in a bit, it's still quite telling. And so this was administered by the university. It's one of the biggest surveys of a gamification app ever. So we had about 5,000 respondents. Most of the respondents are from English-speaking countries, because that's where our players are from. Average age, 33. Some people really young, some really old runners, older runners, 71. I should add, a lot of people assume that Zombies Run, because it's got zombies, is going to be mostly men playing. It's not true. Most of our players are actually women. Why is that? maybe storytelling, maybe it's because it's fitness, but I think that's why it's really important to sort of challenge these kind of stereotypes and think, oh yeah, well, if I want to go and make a game for women, it should be about unicorns or something. No, you can do anything you want, right? You know, women like zombies as well. It's fine. And interestingly, about 12% of people had a disability or illness that affected their physical activity levels. And so this is another really important point. A lot of people, when we talk about Zombies Run, they ask us, oh, who's it designed for? You know, is it designed for expert runners? Is it designed for people who are beginners? You know, how did you do that kind of user research when we started? And the honest answer is we didn't do any user research at all. We've never done any user research. I hate doing user research. We just make apps for me, basically. And I am the average runner. I started out hating running. I couldn't think of anything more unpleasant. And then I got to the point where I'm running quite a lot. And you know, I remember when we worked for the BBC and Channel 4, and they'd force us to come up with these fictional user profiles. Here's Betty, she's 46, she lives in Hull, she likes, you know, Game of Thrones. It's just who cares, just making this shit up. It's a complete waste of time for us, not for you. Sometimes you have to do this. But I guess my point is that for this sort of consumer application where people are choosing to buy it, people are self-selecting to buy this, you don't need to make it for everyone, right? You just need to make it for someone. And as long as it works for some people, then it's worth it. So having said that, I have been really surprised by the people who have found it useful. Some people run literally 2,000 kilometers a year to Zombies Run, and some people, you know, struggle to run, you know, 1 kilometer a month for Zombies Run. They just do it at home and they walk around. And so we've made something very deliberately that can be played even if you're just walking, or even if you're stationary, or you're in a wheelchair. We've added these accessibility features to Zombies Run so that people of all abilities can use it. And we don't punish people if they don't run enough during the day or run enough during the month. You know, we try and keep it as accessible as possible. So, reasons for starting to use Zombies Run. Most people weren't even runners before, actually, and they wanted to start running. So that's actually who we end up getting. They weren't runners, but they're like, oh, maybe this Zombies Running app will help me run more, or run at all. Some people just wanted to play the game, because the game sounded cool, and I guess you have to run to do that. And then, you know, about a quarter of people were running already, and maybe they're really good runners, but they just wanted something a bit more interesting. So before using Zombies Run, about 40% of people just didn't like running or exercise at all, right? They didn't enjoy it. Some people just loved it, you know, 10%, loved exercising all the time. But most people kind of liked it, but maybe find it difficult to get out the door and put their trainers on, that sort of thing. And so what we found is that the vast majority of people have become more positive about running and exercising. So out of 5,000 people, most people are just more excited about doing it. And similarly, a lot of people think that their exercise levels have changed. They've increased because of playing this game. And this is the reported levels of vigorous physical activity. So not just walking, but jogging or running before and after. People are saying, well, before they were doing maybe, 2 hours a week, and now afterwards they're doing close to 4 hours a week of vigorous exercise, so pretty big difference. The thing that is most interesting for us is not actually, how many minutes, because we can't verify this. This is self-reported. They might all be making it up, right? But what we're really interested in is how Zombies Run changed people's identity of themselves, right? So I'll explain what this means. The red bars show what people saw themselves as primarily before playing Zombies Run, and then the darker bars, the blue bars, show what they felt themselves to be afterwards. As you can see, 36% of people thought they were gamers, beforehand, and then afterwards, that sort of level of identity went down. And what we're seeing is that people are saying, actually, now that I played Zombies Run, I consider myself to be more of a runner, or I consider myself to be more of a gamer and a runner, right? And it's really interesting to kind of like see that shift. It's hard to sort of have that shift in identity, you know, because people's identities tend to be quite stable. And for people to kind of think of themselves, hey, now I'm a runner, right? That's a thing that I do, and that's a thing that I do regularly. That's really exciting for us, because it's, you know, for our game to do that. So not everything we do is successful. We tried many things over the years, not just Zombies Run. We made many different apps. I want to give an example of something that we did that wasn't successful, in case you think that we're just like magical, because we're not. There's a really popular thing a few years ago called 7-Minute Workout. I'm sure some people here will be aware of it. It was this fad. I don't know whether anyone's doing it anymore, but it was this idea you could do a whole home workout in 7 minutes. Spoiler, you can't do a home workout in 7 minutes. If you read the actual scientific paper, you're meant to do 14 or 21 minutes. Sorry if I disappoint anyone who's been doing a 7-minute workout. And it was huge. There was millions of downloads, and we thought, well, can we make a 7-minute workout more interesting, right? Can we gamify it? And so we came up with this idea of a game called Superhero Workout, where we would use the front-facing camera on iPhones and iPads to track your repetitions of, like, you know, push-ups and press-ups and you know, sit-ups and plank sits and all these sorts of things, and turn them into a kind of superhero game where if you're like punching towards the screen, then you'd be like smashing asteroids, or if you're doing crunches, you're powering up your, you know, Iron Man suit's generator. And I mean, it did okay, right? It sold like a few, like tens of thousands of copies, which is not bad, you know. We didn't really lose like any money on it, but it didn't really do that well. And if I had to kind of sum it up in one reason for why it didn't do that well, it's because there wasn't as strong a kind of fit between the exercise and the gameplay, right? With Zombies Run, you could really see yourself as being kind of running in a zombie apocalypse, you know? Maybe you're out running in a park, maybe you're out running along the streets and you've got headphones, and you can really feel that you're there. Whereas with this, I mean, it looks big on a screen, but imagine you're like doing crunches and you've got like a small phone or like an iPad, and you don't have your headphones in. It's just not as immersive. I mean, maybe if we did it in virtual reality, it would be, but we don't have that yet. So we'll have to come back to this in 5 years' time. We'll do it in VR, and maybe it'll be better, right? Sometimes you have the right idea at the wrong time. Also, I think we thought that by putting motion tracking and kind of special effects and stuff like that into this, people would be like, wow, so many features, what a great game. And it's like sometimes the simpler thing is a better thing, actually, which is depressing because we'd spent so much time working on it. You know, it's really cool technology. And we're the only people to do motion tracking in this sort of thing. We're using machine learning to identify exercises. It's just people didn't care. I don't know. You know, sometimes that's what happens, you know. And we learned from that, and we sort of moved on. So I think, this is a typo here, I think you have to learn and recognize every problem is different, right? You know, we were trying to apply something that we'd learned from Zombies Run to a different kind of exercise, and it just wasn't quite the right fit. Even though it had all the storytelling that I said, you know, was so important, even with that storytelling, didn't quite work out. So we should have thought about it a little bit more, about the immersion aspect. I think also, you know, kind of obviously be skeptical of easy solutions. In this case, it wasn't that easy a solution. It took us quite a while to develop this. But conceptually, it was kind of an easy solution. You know, taking an existing idea and applying it, adding gamification to it, didn't really quite work. So that's kind of a lesson that we had there. And so I want to talk a little bit about the future of gamification. Some people here have talked about augmented reality and virtual reality. I'm very excited about what's possible with augmented reality, but I would sort of like, because I think that it removes the requirement to have like a special interface for your gameplay, right? And now you can track actions that people do in the real world. And so I think it's incredibly exciting what's coming with augmented reality. The one thing that I would say is it's probably going to be really bad for the first 5 years, basically. And so if you are in a position where you can go and get the work-for-hire consultancy, I wouldn't say you shouldn't take it. But I'm saying that if you're planning to make virtual reality or augmented reality games that you sell to consumers, I'd be a little bit cautious about that, actually, because I'm not sure that the technology is really mature enough and that enough people have got it. So I think in the long term, in 10 years' time, 15 years' time, probably, we'll all have Apple glasses and we'll all be using augmented reality. And Zombies Run in augmented reality will be really great, although a little bit terrifying. Although, I will say, actually, a lot of people say, oh, when Apple glasses come out and you've got, augmented reality and you've got Zombies Run, won't that be really cool? I will say, the kind of free tip here, the zombies are behind you, right? They're not in front of you. You're not running towards the zombies. I'm running away from the zombies. So if I'm running in Zombies Run in augmented reality, I'm just not seeing any zombies, right? I don't want to be like running behind me. So actually, Zombies Run in augmented reality, maybe it's not that good idea. Maybe we'll have to come up with something new where you're running towards something instead of running away from something, right? So again, I would love to just make Zombies Run for augmented reality and it to be a big success. I'm not sure whether it would be. I think we'd have to come up with something else. And that's okay, because we've already had like 8 years of really big success with Zombies Run. So I think that really try and kind of inhabit it and think about what's possible and prototype it. We have in-house developers who we prototype all these ideas with. We try and find out what's going to work. And most of our ideas aren't successful. People don't like them, but some of them are. And once we've got them, we really sort of push them. And, I didn't expect to be working on Zombies Run for this long, to be perfectly honest. I thought we'd sort of put it out there for like a year or two, and we'd make like millions of dollars, and then we'd just go and make something else. And I think for a lot of people, when we work on gamification, we make an application, and it works or it doesn't work, and we make something else. It's kind of weird to be working on something, for me, for like 8 years. Like, it's about 5 years too long, really. I get bored after 3 years. But one of the most rewarding things, particularly with health and fitness, but I think with gamification, so many great stories I've heard, over the last 2 days, about really life-changing, important applications of gamification. That's a really important thing, because let's face it, there are other ways of making money, but I think it's really important that we do this. We get emails and tweets every day from people telling us, our games have changed their lives. Someone who's used 5K version to recover from Achilles surgery. Someone who says, I just didn't like running beforehand. Some people who could barely do 15-second drills, without stopping. We've had some people who say that they were recovering from cancer, and part of that recovery is getting more active, and we're able to make it more exciting. Some people are very effusive, excluding my wife and daughter. It might be the best thing that ever happened to me. So some people are really positive about Zombies Run. So it's really rewarding. It's hard to do. It's hard to make gamification that actually works and actually makes money, But I think if you can do it, it's one of the most rewarding things to work on. So thank you very much, and I'm happy to take questions.